Jesse? It's been quite a summer. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Dolores, could you please call roll?
Yes. Chair Edding,
Present.
Commissioner Ducell,
Here.
Commissioner Neufeld, Commissioner Hamrick,
Present.
Commissioner Rogan,
Present.
Commissioner Schnabel,
Present.
and Commissioner Miller.
Okay, thank you. So we do have a quorum. All right, so the agenda for tonight, first of all, remind everybody when you're going to speak, since we're on camera now, and that's starting, well, as of the last public hearing, you got to make sure that your mic is on. Okay, so the agenda tonight is going to be the staff update from Paul, who is in Ohio on the phone, so we're going to have to kind of listen in on him. We'll do audience business, then we have 2 public hearings. For the resolution for the development plan for the Red Lion Dispensary. Then we have a second public hearing for the artisan zoning. We'll have commissioner reports, we'll adjourn, and then we have a workshop afterwards with the Valley Bank, in which we'll probably all just move up here. So you can leave, and so we'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll just move up there. So, all right, so can everybody hear? Barney, do you want to be here for the staff update?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, and then you'll recuse yourself. Okay, so Paul, can you hear us?
So just with regard to current development, can everybody hear me? Is this loud enough?
Let's make it a little louder.
Try it again.
Okay, how is this?
That's
I
good,
can
that's
deepen-
good.
Okay, I'll deepen my voice. So with regard to current development, mostly what we're getting is building permits here and there. We did get a development submission from Summit. They asked us to not, they're working on some revisions because it was not complete. And they should have those revisions to us this week, we're thinking. But they also received an extension on the funding, the DR funding, so they're not in as big of a rush as they were originally. They originally needed to spend that money by September, and they received an extension, so they're going at it a little bit more methodically and just trying to get all of the design right. We did send them comments on the engineering plans, and so they're working on some revisions to those. And for the roadway and the utilities, et cetera, the stormwater infrastructure. But the design of the units is still outstanding. So we expect that fairly soon, but they're not in a rush at this point. With regard to planning, I know it said on the agenda Valley Bank, but we're going to look at that later, so I'm not going to cover that now. We need to get back to the acquired parcels. I had set up a meeting, but I had a medical issue, and I need to reset up that meeting. So I'll try to schedule that this week with those that were involved in that meeting, and I'm going to try to just set up a tour of each one of the parcels again. I need to contact Boulder County to do that. I know what I've heard from the Ecology Board and from the Parks and Rec Commission is both of those commissions are recommending taking all of the parcels. And I know there was some concern from staff that we're already stretched as far as the budget's concerned with regard to maintaining open space. We have more open space than most communities, and we're not even maintaining at a high degree what we already have. So some of those issues are going to come to the fore. I have reached out to Boulder County and let them know that we were a little bit behind on this. They were okay with that, but we'll try to set up something as soon as we can. I think that those are the main issues with regard to planning. The downtown design guidelines, we are working with the Main Street program to get some funding for outreach. It isn't going as fast as we'd like, but they think they have some options for funding, and so we're pursuing those because outreach can be expensive, and we wanted to go to at least 3 bodies and have public meetings, and we wanted a facilitator for those public meetings because they can get. It's just good to have a facilitator to walk through all of the issues that people have, rather than just a staff member. So we're hoping that that funding comes through as well. That's all I have for the staff update.
Okay, so our next meeting is August 26th. I assume that we don't have anything scheduled as a public hearing? Is that correct, Paul?
I think that's correct. I'm looking at what we have on the tentative agenda right now.
Okay, so, well, if it's a workshop, that's fine. I will not be here, but everybody else is welcome to meet.
Right now it's just a workshop.
Okay, so we'll just leave it as a workshop. If there's not enough for an agenda, we'll let everybody know.
Okay.
And I did ask about one other thing. I know something is going to go in front of the Board of Trustees in regards to tiny homes on R2. Is there any discussion that the Board of Trustees has had, or is that pending?
That is still pending.
Okay.
The Board of Trustees wanted to hear from it was a citizen or a person initiative to put that in front of the PCDC, and I know the Board of Trustees wanted to have a look at that and hear it because they had considered that in a workshop previously.
Oh.
They wanted to hear whether their position has changed on that from the presentation that this person would do. Essentially, I did talk to the individual that is looking at that. What he would like to do is in R2A allow tiny homes to be a second primary dwelling unit. Because in R2A you're allowed 2 primary dwelling units. Mm-hmm. The Board of Trustees looked at it from the ADU perspective. In R2A, they haven't looked at it from perspective of a second primary dwelling unit. And they, at one point, they said, no, we don't want ADUs in R2A. I don't know. It sounds somewhat like semantics to me, but they wanted to hear it and make a recommendation to PCDC because they had debated that issue in a workshop in the past and recommended not having tiny homes in R2A.
Okay. All right. That'll be interesting. I'd like to see what they hear. Okay. Anything else from a staff update? Anything from the board? Any questions for Paul? All right. So let's close the staff update. I do have to open it up for audience business. This is audience business for anything other than the public hearings or the workshop. There's nobody else here. So I'll close the audience business for anything other than the public hearings and the workshop. Okay, let's go ahead and start the public hearings. We're going to go in order of the development plan for the Red Line Dispensary. Now, I know you guys have things up there, so we'll put them up there. Barney, we'll see you on the 26th. And then we'll go to the artisan zoning. So, all right, so can we start with the staff report? And while he's doing the staff report, if I could ask any of the board members to be ready for a motion that we would deliberate on, so we don't go through that painful moment of silence as everyone's thinking. All right. Okay, can we start with the staff report?
Sure. Red Line LLC has obtained one of the dispensary licenses in town and would like to develop on 4170 U Highway, which is where we used to have our public works building. It's adjacent to that site. So currently it is a vacant kind of, it has a few trees on it, but not much other than that vegetation-wise. It is a vacant parcel that was subdivided in, I think, 2017 or 2016. When it was subdivided, the requirement for improving the parcel was left to the subsequent developer as part of that process. So in the development review that you see before you, there will be a substantial number of public improvements. It's essentially just under 2,000 square foot dispensary that will be located on a little less than a half-acre site. It has 6 regular parking spaces and 1 accessible space for a total of 7 spaces. The site, the development plan provides, safe walking that conforms to our construction and design manual with regard to the street section. It provides a kind of parkway along U Highway and a sidewalk that will eventually, as the rest of the area develops, allow for a sidewalk that keeps pedestrians safe along the front of that commercial area. It is zoned commercial eastern corridor, and the development plan fits with the intent of that district. When we looked at this, we think that it conforms to most of the development plan review criteria and most of the town's commercial and mixed-use design guidelines. In the staff report, you'll notice near the on the subsequent pages, there are a number of comments that have been identified and addressed by the applicant, and we are continuing to work with the applicant on addressing some of those issues. We feel that we can do so if approved by a PCDC. There are a number of things that have already been addressed. Most of the architectural issues have been addressed. There's some updating of the landscape plan. And for instance, bike parking, some of the trees in the right-of-way may need to be modified and some of the plantings. But we feel that we can work together to resolve those issues. And we recommend that as a condition of approval. So we feel that the development plan, it really fits what the town is intended to do at this location. And the one thing that we have talked to the applicant about is that the site, although currently out of the 100-year floodplain, the regulatory floodplain, looks like it'll be in once the new floodplain is adopted. And so we advise them that they should construct to 100-year floodplain standards. It's not required under our current code, but we think that it would be recommended because the risk and potentially the cost of insurance in that location. So as we reviewed their plan and worked with Red Lion LLC, we came to the conclusion that this is really a good location for the development, but we also had a number of conditions that you can see in this report. One is we would like to get the certified drainage report and an updated grading and erosion control plan, because what is on the plan that was kind of changed from the last version of what was submitted, I think there's some contours that are off, and some drainage improvements that can be that were recommended by our town engineer that would help make sure that the drainage is addressed. You can see it that we are recommending approval with a number of conditions. The first would be that there is certified drainage report updated and accepted by the staff, and that there is an updated grading and drainage control sheet for the drainage for the development plan. The second would be a landscape irrigation plan prior to issuance of a building permit. Third would be acceptance of a development plan agreement that would include the assurance for those public infrastructure elements and landscape if and when the developer or the Red Lion LLC withdraws. That just makes sure that we can put in the infrastructure improvements if they get halfway through development, and is often required as part of the development plan. Condition 4, I think we mentioned this in the last revision, but we haven't seen it in the utility plan, that the sanitary sewer connects outside of the manhole with a Y connection, which is essentially a 45 angle degree connection that does not occur in the manhole itself. Condition 5, when we look through the commercial and mixed-use design guidelines, this plan did not necessarily achieve the standards that were in that with regard to where pedestrians would walk and the illumination. What we see in the photometric plan is that there are some concentrations of light in particular areas, and they exceed the recommended or the lumens in those areas. And in other areas where there's pedestrian walkways, they're much lower. So we may look at distributing some of that light. This might be an issue with safety lighting, but we think that there's opportunities here to make the light less strong in particular locations. Condition 6 would be that the entire area shown on the plan that is that is the parking lot in that location, we would recommend full paving of the asphalt. If we do just recycled asphalt or even gravel, we do believe that the fines in that would create a maintenance nightmare and even a dust issue with the adjacent lots. It would be a nuisance in essence to drainage. So we think that the whole area should be paved. We're willing to look at 20 to 30% recycled material, but we're hoping that the entire parking lot would be paved. Condition 7 would be acceptance of the vegetation in the right-of-way by the Ecology Advisory Board. What I realize now is we need to have their approval, and it's written into the code, and I have not seen that yet. I just understood that recently, and so we need to get their feedback on any tree plantings in the right-of-way, so those that are out by the road. I believe the tree plantings out there would fit their criteria, but we just need to get their approval before we can allow that landscape plan to be accepted by the town. Condition number 8 would be perpetual drainage easement. The grant of a perpetual drainage easement for the drainage pond. We would work together with the applicant on what that looks like. Condition 9 would be updated development plan that fits the required stall dimensions. And what you see before you, there's an 18-foot stall that includes a 2-foot overhang, and we need a 20-foot stall, or the parking block is 2 feet in, so it essentially shrinks the entire stall dimension to 20 feet. I think we can do that by moving the parking block out on the east side, but I'm not sure about how that will occur on the west side in the handicapped area. But I think it's a minor revision to the plan as well. And then condition 10 would be acceptance of all of the comments that the applicant said they would address in the commercial and mixed-use design guidelines. So there are 10 conditions that are recommended. The staff is recommending acceptance of the development plan with those 10 conditions.
Okay. All right, anything else from the staff report?
I think that is all I have.
Okay. All right, so let's allow the applicant to step up.
And I just want to make a quick note that I see some of you are on your computer, and that version that was uploaded is actually an older version.
All
So
right.
there's a new one. And so my name is Tia Welch, and I'm the applicant. And then this is David from Trailridge, the engineer, and Nicole from Lodestone, who's the architect, to answer any of your technical questions. As Paul said, we are building a retail marijuana dispensary with 3 point of sales and 1 employee at the entrance to ensure that we're really complying with the state rules and regulations. The only thing we really want to address, and we don't want to pull any waivers as far as we're concerned, is the parking lot asphalt situation. Everything else we've noted, we will look into and change for conditional approval. And with the parking lot, I just reviewed some of the notes from the municipal code. And although it's our intention definitely to pave going forward, I think that would definitely be the best option in the future. It is really costly, so we were hoping to push that back a little bit in time to give us some time to get some revenue generated and actually make it more feasible for us, just because that is a huge expense and can actually cost up to $100,000 from some estimates I've seen for that size of parking lot. And per the code, we did note that it says that all parking lots containing more than 8 spaces need to be paved with asphalt. So we are only at 7 spaces so far. So we were hoping that we could use some recycled asphalt, which does minimize dust, and kind of even coordinate with the distillery who just closed on the lot next to us, and then use that space parking lot and see if we can maybe even align that in the future, if they're going to wait to pave, or kind of just get some feedback from them. I'm meeting with them on Thursday, so I'll know more then. Please let me know if you have any other questions.
Okay, so the other 10 items that he mentioned, other than the paving, you're going to agree to? Okay.
We're good with.
All right. I just have one question on the paving. I know the last time you were here, we were discussing the fact that we didn't want cars to accelerate off gravel into the road.
Yes.
So you would agree to pave part of the parking lot?
I would, yes. At
Okay.
least that entrance ramp in like 10 feet or 15 feet. I forget exactly what dimensions we had discussed, but I'm definitely understanding
Okay.
of that safety concern and willing to do that.
Okay. Questions for the applicant? So we'll go in this order. You can ask the applicant any questions at this point, but we shouldn't per se deliberate.
Okay.
Then we have to open it up for audience business
Got it.
regarding this public hearing, and then we open up for deliberation.
Okay. I actually had a question for Paul.
Absolutely.
Do you
Yeah,
have to
just-
turn yours off?
Do I have to turn mine off?
Why am I blinking red?
Just speak into this one.
All right. Hey, Paul, it's Clay. I've got just a quick question, mostly out of curiosity. I know that cannabis rules in the state level have a lot of security and lighting and camera issues. Were those in conflict with our lighting issues, or was there any conflict between state level regulations and our town level regulations regarding dispensaries?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right. Good. That was my only question.
I'm not sure, so I would have to look into it. But I didn't look into it fully. Taya may know more about that, but my understanding is, what I looked into, I didn't find.
Cool.
Hey, Paul, this is David. I had a question, and yet back to the paving. Last time when we discussed with Red Lion, we discussed kind of, due to the cash flow in that discussion of paving the first part of it so people wouldn't be spinning wheels coming out trying to get into the traffic, and then put conditions in over time that the lot would be paved. And so it sounded like you had a different change of heart, and I was just curious what the thought process was. It sounded like the dust and stuff with other the neighbors next door and such, and so I just was, if you could review, what that discussion was since our last meeting, please.
So I think there are some water quality issues with regard to recycled asphalt getting into the water quality pond, some maintenance issues with that, as well as some, asphalt when it's paved, you don't get as much in the air. So yeah, there are some dust issues. It just was, when I spoke to our engineer, he just thought it wouldn't be the best solution. And, within our commercial and mixed-use design guidelines, we're looking for high-quality development, and he thought, it would break down sooner than later. It would be a nice maintenance nightmare, and especially with all of the cars coming in and out, it would compact. So there were a number of issues that they saw. So we just had we were willing to consider it during our last examination of the commercial and mixed-use design guidelines, but we didn't think it was a good idea then either. So we heard the PCDC say that they would consider it, and we went back and studied it a little and thought that it wasn't a great idea.
Okay, thank you. And let me ask Red Lion then, what would you consider, paving the entire lot to cash flow is a difficult, and you don't want us to get into your cash flow discussion, so what would you foresee as a reasonable time period where the lot would be paved?
Sure, I think we could definitely do that initial section right away while construction is occurring. And then moving that back to either like 6 months to a year after opening, just so we do have some revenue, but planning that if we had the money that we'd allocate that kind of as our first project to get started on, if we were to make more money kind of up front rather than later.
Okay.
Yeah, and I might just add too, from the engineering perspective, the asphalt as opposed to the recycled asphalt would increase stormwater runoff. So it actually produces more runoff than having a more porous surface for water to soak into. So it is a double-edged sword in that way, in my view.
when I spoke to our engineer, they thought that the compaction that would occur wouldn't allow much infiltration with recycled asphalt. And so the benefit would be minimal. You know, you can do some infiltration pavers, et cetera, but they didn't, you know, and I'm not an expert in this, but that was their, you know, it would infiltrate for a little while, and then as more and more cars roll over it, it would compact down, and you would lose that benefit.
Yeah, it's such a crapshoot because the mantra I've always heard is impermeable surfaces are better than paved surfaces for water quality. But I get that point as well, so. Is it working?
No, it's got to be green. It's something on.
All right. So, hi. I'm a little bit new to this discussion, but I've been reading a lot about this and hearing a lot about this. And the only thing I'm really curious about is the number of parking spaces, because I would imagine that you would want lots and lots of customers to come in. And 7 seems really, really tiny. And I'm wondering, does that include employee parking? How, maybe Paul or someone else on the commission can enlighten me about how we got to 7 parking spaces. I would get concerned there would be traffic backup going in, coming out. That's a dangerous road.
That a bit too, yeah. The code requires, I believe it's 2, one per 500 for this zoning district.
Mm-hmm.
And so based on the size of the building, we'd only be required to have 4, with one of those being ADA accessible. And obviously, like you mentioned, you want to accommodate as many people as you can on your site. But being a smaller site, having adequate area to put the stormwater pond, turn a vehicle around, provide trash access, and potentially preserve a connection with the distillery, we felt 6 was the number that fit pretty well on the other side with the ADA space adjacent to the building.
So what happens if more people want to come to your dispensary? Where do they go?
So we actually address that in the interior of the building. So we actually have 3 POS systems, and those are point of sales, which means we can really churn customers over and really like generate more income, as well as getting people in and out really rapidly. A lot of dispensaries only have 1 or 2, especially in this size building, they might only have 1, which would make the waiting room area fill up and more cars fill up as well. So that was something we discussed a little bit in planning stages, so we could, you know, make the site plan work with the building and all of that. And then we have also been in talks with the distillery, as they are using that whole space next to us as a parking lot. And nothing's set in stone, and I don't want to speak on that, you know, what their plans are, but we were even saying, like, if they were having like parties, they could use our parking spots, and they tentatively, again, nothing set in stone. We're like, well, maybe we can figure out something during other hours of the day when you're more busy versus us.
Okay, thank you.
There are also going to be, which you don't see in the development plan, some bike parking on site. The hope is in the future that the St. Vrain Greenway Trail will be connected to this site. And so we are attempting to make this site more accessible by walking and biking, and that may help out with the town population coming here, and provide an alternative means of transportation to the site. One of the elements that I did not mention is that they're dedicating a trail easement to the town on the east side of the site, a 10-foot easement that will allow the trail in the back, when it is developed, to have an option for putting in a trail from the back to the front to bring people out to this site and to the front of all of the development along here. hopefully that will help with, if parking is always full, people will start to look at alternative transportation options.
Any other questions for the applicant? Anything else you guys want to see at all? Okay, all right, so if you guys want to take your seat, I've got to open it up for, thank you. I've got to open it up for public comment. Assuming since nobody else is here, we have no public comment on it, I'm going to close the public comment. All right, so we'll start the deliberation. We begin all deliberations with some type of motion. Can anybody suggest a motion?
I have it pulled up in front of me, so I can suggest one. Move to approve Resolution 2019-5 CDC with the conditions in this staff report.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion?
It worked the last time we had.
Yeah, everyone just comes speaking to this one.
I think this all seems pretty reasonable. I think the only issue we've got in front of us really is the parking, or the paving of the parking. First of all, I think it's really cool that an easement is being granted to connect the Greenway Trail to the highway and the pedestrian, the walkway. It'll be funny, for now there's going to be a short stretch of sidewalk, which is always funny, but I was at the distillery the other night and it's hard to walk there. So it'll be nice when that gets connected. I like the idea of working with the distillery owners and trying to think about parking creatively, and I don't know what their plans are for that lot. I just recently learned that they were acquiring it. Presumably something will come in front of us if they want to do something significant with it. And I know that with paving, there's a big economy of scale to do if you pave a lot that's twice the size, almost costs the same as a little lot like they're looking at here. I think it's $50,000 to get their trucks to show up or something. So I like what the applicant is saying. I like that idea. I would love it if there was an impervious or a pervious substrate that we could come up with that also didn't scatter gravel all over the highway for cyclists and whatnot. I don't know what that is. I also do like the idea of having some kind of a time frame of figuring that out, and I don't know how we give that any teeth. So that's my comment on that.
Yeah, it would be worth including some sort of teeth in the proposed motion that there's a set time frame, at least for you mentioned during construction, we could have that completed, and there would be some monitoring to ensure that curve during the construction period, so at least there'd be a smooth surface they could accelerate from. I'll see that as one of the conditions, that's why I asked.
Yeah, just to comment to that, I think we definitely need the language or the design to reflect the pavement for the acceleration, because obviously I think traffic accidents is the biggest problem along there, by far. But Paul, what is your thought? Is there any possibility of what you could suggest on this issue with teeth? Like if the applicant did want to pave it in conjunction with and in harmony with the Alliance Distillery like 12 months from now, is there any way we as a town can ensure that that happens? Any way that you know of? Is there any precedent here?
I think I am not sure, but I think we can make that a condition of the development plan agreement. Oftentimes, phasing and infrastructure that will come later is tied into an agreement that says, yes, you're permitted for this now, but we want this security for that infrastructure, or we want this at that time. And so we could tie, I believe, that together, either with a phasing plan or as part of the development agreement.
Okay.
I think my recommendation would be that you direct staff to work with the applicant as part of the development approval to accommodate a way to, in the short term, 6 months to a year, identify a method that triggers that paving or that that joint discussion with Spirit Hounds and that joint paving.
So Dolores, so would that be a friendly amendment that we would want to make on top of the motion?
Yes, we can do that,
Okay.
yes.
All right, so if anybody wants to make a friendly amendment, that would be the suggestion, I guess.
I will make a friendly amendment that we add, a friendly amendment to Josh's motion, that we add a, what would we do, phasing or?
What would be the wording for this?
Put phasing plan or possibly tied to the development agreement, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
A drop date for the phasing plan.
Could we just put a year cap on it? That way it would give time to, say, within a year you have to have it paved regardless and tie it to.
Well, and is that within a year of today, a year of completion of the project?
From
a year,
once they open, yeah.
Well, a year-
Once
a
open.
year of open for business?
Yeah, you're open for business, yeah.
Is that just for the ramp portion, or is that for the entire?
That's the entire thing.
I think I would have to believe that the ramp portion would get done when they do the sidewalk. It would
Yeah, with construction.
Yeah,
would be part of that.
that's not
Process.
negotiable in my mind,
No, I agree. We don't.
just from a safety
Yeah.
standpoint.
And
That's a-
really what I was getting at. I think financing has to come into play with regard to how much they can do within a year timeframe. That's why I'm a little bit reluctant to suggest some kind of temporal cap, on when this gets done. Because they had mentioned it would be financing dependent.
Yeah, but I guess I would, I don't want to get in their business and inside, so if we just, instead of 6 months, that may be a little tight. A year would allow time to work with Spirit Hound and others, because I do think that's a great idea to do both of them at the same time, so.
Well, that's a dangerous little stretch of road right there.
It is.
There's an accident every summer. I don't know if there's been one this summer, but people.
Every week.
Flight of life was landing
All
on
right,
the
I
highway.
must have been out of town. And, between the, now there's going to be a dispensary, a distillery, the gas station, Clark's Hardware. I mean, there's a lot going on right there. And I would love it if there was one egress and ingress for all of those businesses, but I don't think that's possible.
Well, and also, you shouldn't be able to make a left anymore there.
Yeah.
Make a right, down and do a
Right.
U-turn.
Yeah, so-
I don't make lefts there anymore.
No, something's going to have to give, but that's beyond our, that's beyond our purview, to
State
quote.
highway.
Yeah, that's a CDOT issue. So I do like the idea of delaying it a little bit because they might be able to tie it in with Spirit Hound and possibly with the, whatever it is now, Circle K, and make it a safer space because I worry about those. I mean, it's heavy cyclist. It's a dangerous little stretch. So what would we say? All right. I'd like to make a friendly amendment to Commissioner Schnabel's motion that we ask the applicant to be completed with an acceptable paving plan within 1 year of opening for business.
I think that makes sense.
I think that makes sense. Did I do that right?
Loris is frowning. Right, well, let's let her get it in, and then let's reread it.
Within 1 year of opening for business?
Yes.
So that would replace condition 6.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so actually, the friendly amendment would be replace condition 6. I'm not supposed to
Oh,
adjust them, but.
okay.
Replace condition 6 with an agreement to work with town staff to have paving within 1 year after open of business. Something like that.
Yeah, all right. Dolores, I'm gonna let you get caught up.
Sound good?
You let
Friendly
me,
amendment to replace condition 6 with an agreement to ask applicant to be completed with an acceptable paving plan within 1 year of opening for business. That makes sense? Try again. Friendly amendment that would replace condition 6 with an agreement not to ask, so with
Yeah,
an
with an
agreement
agreement.
with applicant.
To work with town staff.
With town staff to have a completed and acceptable paving plan.
Well,
That's the plan instead of the actual thing.
yeah, I don't want to, I think we should have the thing by a year.
So not plan, so have a completed,
Have the lot
Question
paved.
about that, is that, am I going out of order?
No, you're good.
So I totally see why we want the parking lot paved. My concern would be that if the applicant's margins aren't high enough to allow for budgeting for a gigantic project like that, it actually could be putting their business at risk if we require it, and I'm not sure that that's what we want to do.
Absolutely.
That's,
Yeah, I guess what we heard last time from the applicant, that this was a cash flow consideration, so we're giving them a year buffer. Whether or not, if the business isn't successful, then I understand your concern, but at the same time, I think by giving them a year, we're giving them a larger window to deal with this. And frankly, if I was in their shoes, I'd be talking to Spirit in the morning and say, hey, what can we do? Because if truly it's economies of scale and paving, which I'm sure it probably is, then it behooves them to help make something happen. So that's.
yeah, I appreciate that sentiment very much. That makes sense. Having had a number of businesses, some of which made it and some of which didn't, sometimes if after a year you can't afford to pave your parking lot, maybe it's time to rethink the venture, but we're not business consultants here, we're the planning commission, so, yeah. But do we want to have the plan in place, or do we want to have it executed?
I think executed.
Yeah, I think so too.
completed.
Executed, yeah.
Yeah. And I intentionally I think let Dolores catch up. But.
All right, so Dolores, what's the
Okay,
latest and
let's
greatest
try
that we
this.
have?
Friendly amendment to replace condition 6 with an agreement with the applicant to work with the town staff to have a completed and executed paved parking lot within 1 year of opening for business.
That's toothy.
That's toothy.
That's Tuesday?
Flexible but toothy. All right.
So, sorry, to make sure one more
That's okay.
wrench in
Yeah,
here, is the
sure.
new kid. So what if the applicant's business opens and a year goes by and they simply do not?
Right.
Where is he?
Right.
So, one of the ways that can be done is in the development plan agreement, where we get some assurity, like a letter of credit, that we hold for a year. And that says that if it's not done within that year, we can pull that letter of credit. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot the town can do to once the business is operating, to effectuate that. I mean, I can look into it a little more and we'll work on it, but that is one of the options that I can think of that will be at least acceptable from the town's point of view. There may be others out there, I'm just not aware of them.
Can I suggest that for tonight, we're good with it, and that could be dealt with when it approaches the Board of Trustees? Can we let it go to the next step, Paul, and have the Board of Trustees deal with that?
I believe so, that we can figure out in the development agreement how to do that, but it will be something along those lines of, you can do an escrow, but that's not an option at this point, but a development agreement could be, a letter of credit could be It's just, there may be other options, so we can work on it together and bring it to the Board of Trustees.
All right, I'm good letting that go to the Board of Trustees.
I agree.
Okay.
So does someone second my amendment?
All right, so I need somebody to second the amendment.
Do you have it read aloud? Just
Yeah, one more time, just for clarity.
The original motion was by Commissioner Schneider, moved to approve with conditions stated in staff report, seconded by Commissioner Rogan. The friendly amendment by Commissioner Ducell was to replace condition 6 with an agreement with applicant to work with town staff to have a completed and executed paved parking lot within 1 year of opening for business.
Okay, we have a second?
I can second.
All right. All right, any other comments on the motion in front of us? All right, can we go ahead and take a vote on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so that is 5-0, so it passes, so we're good. All right, so let's go on to the second public hearing. I don't need to adjourn this public hearing, we just start the second part of the public hearing.
That's it. The vote closes it.
The vote closes it, okay, great. All right, hey guys, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, item 2 in the public hearing. Let's get through this quickly since we wrote it and nobody else is here for it tonight. So, Paul, very quickly, staff report.
So what you have before you is a draft of an ordinance that we drafted because we've heard since I think 2014 from ECDC that there's a desire for artesian zoning in town. We do have some aspects of craft making, like custom and small industry or studio. But what we were in particularly concerned about is small-scale manufacturing firms and allowing them to kind of come into the market. In particular, with this ordinance, in the commercial downtown. So this is small-scale direct sales or not wholesale marketing firms that do kind of on-site hand fabrication or small tools or light equipment. It allows us to expand what definitions we had before to kind of what is not quite light industrial, but it mimics light industrial in several ways. It's permitting kind of that if it has some public serving or public viewing space, such as a rental or showrooms or sale of goods on the premises. So the hope is to allow for artesian manufacturing in the commercial downtown, and that is what this ordinance is meant to do. And what it allows that as a permitted use, so a principal use. A principal use is something that is just allowed if that use does not have kind of off-site impact. And it does not change the footprint of the building. What I mean by off-site impacts is it does not have external impacts associated with odor, vibration, smoke, dust, soot, heat, glare, or lighting. It also limits utility usage, so it's not a huge suck on our utilities. So it kind of has a limited manufacturing scope, but it allows that in our downtown. And what we think this could do is allow some of those buildings that have been sitting vacant to kind of have additional options that are not currently specifically what you call permitted in the downtown. If somebody wants to alter the footprint of the building, they can also do that with this type of business. but they would have to go through a conditional use, which is a more public, it's a public process that requires notification of neighbors. It requires, a kind of review by PCDC and the Board of Trustees. So it would be more in depth if somebody wanted to come in and do that. What this is recommending is allowing an artesian manufacturing in the commercial downtown as a permitted use, again, if it doesn't change the footprint of the building, or a conditional use if it does. So this is our best guess at what we had a workshop to accommodate. You can also see that we've changed a few definitions. When we went to look at light industrial, because those were not quite clear, it said non-polluting uses. And this, we thought, okay, anything polluting in general, so that is very limiting. So we changed some wording to fit more of what light industrial is, and thereby modified the code to be more accurate in its definition. So we support this. We've put this together based on what our workshops were, and we're looking for feedback. What you have before you is a resolution approving this. We're looking for feedback. If this is not what you want, we can take this back and modify it, or you can recommend that this move ahead with changes. We're just trying to fit what we've seen occurring and that wants to occur in the town core, and so that we can permit it and not kind of curtail that sector or that niche of the economy in mind.
Okay, thanks, Paul. A couple of questions. Did you reach out to this Chamber of Commerce that we do or do not have? Did they have any comment, or did any business owners downtown make any comments on this at all?
No, well, we tried to get it on the Chamber of Commerce. We haven't been able to get it on their schedule yet.
Oh, so they have a schedule. They exist?
What's that? They have not seen this, so we don't have feedback from them yet.
All right.
We tried to get it on their agenda, and their agenda was full.
Okay.
What we understood.
Okay.
I asked Tiffany, our downtown manager, to get it on there, and for some reason it wasn't available.
All right, interesting. All right. Okay, any other questions for staff? So there is no applicant in this case, so I'm not going to ask the applicant to approach the bench. I do have to open it up for audience business. You guys don't care. So I'm going to close it for audience business as far as the artisan zoning. All right, so the motion would be simple, I imagine. But can I have someone make the motion that we would consider tonight?
It's always so hard in that shit. Sure, I will, what?
Is this we simply...
Yeah. I'll make a motion to pass PCDC Resolution 2019-4.
I think to recommend to the Board of Trustees.
Okay. All right. I'm going to make a resolution to recommend to the Board of Trustees that they pass Resolution 2019-4.
As written.
As written.
Dolores, is that a fine motion?
No.
Okay.
What you're doing is you need the motion to approve this resolution, which recommends approval of the ordinance.
Okay.
Does that
All
make
right.
sense?
Okay. I will make a... All right, what
So
am I?
I think I led you astray.
Oh.
I think I was entirely wrong.
Teach me to listen to Greg.
Yeah.
All right.
Recommend, yeah.
All right. I'm going to make a... I like seconding the motions. I'm gonna make a motion to approve Resolution 2019-4, to recommend to the Board of Trustees that they approve Resolution 2019-4.
Well, it's actually, yeah, well, it's. they're
What did I say,
approving-
Dolores?
They're approving an ordinance that amends that, but I think this resolution approves ordinance that will tie in the artisan zoning. I don't know that the ordinance has actually a number yet until it gets recommendation
Ah.
to you guys. You know what I'm saying? So you guys are recommending they approve the artisan zoning.
All right.
Yeah.
So, do I need to say it again?
So can we just say we recommend approval of the artisan zoning?
Yes.
Okay, wow.
I'll make a motion to recommend the approval of artisan zoning.
All right, do you have a second for the motion?
Second.
That was easy.
All right, any other comments that we want to make? I mean, we wrote it, so anything that staff changed that we're comfortable, not comfortable with?
Well, I think it's good progress.
I think so too. Hopefully Reeb is still there, right, and in
Yes,
business?
as far as I know, yes.
Okay, and then hopefully then they will open up a retail section. So, and then hopefully more will come.
I think that's the goal, right?
Yeah, that's the goal, so. Hey, Paul, do you know when this would go in front of the Board of Trustees?
Dolores, have we noticed it for the Board of Trustees yet?
I have not seen the ordinance for it, but I do believe when I noticed the PCDC, I did it duly as for the Board of Trustees for the next meeting. Well, maybe not the next meeting, because that would be first reading, so I think maybe the second meeting in September.
Second meeting in September?
Yeah, I think it was the September 3rd meeting. They would hear the second reading, and that would be the public hearing.
Right, because they'll get first reading on the 19th, I'm sorry. And then the first meeting in September would be the public hearing.
So the public hearing would be September 3rd?
Yes.
Okay, Paul, can you just keep us aware of that? Because I'd like somebody from the PCDC to attend that meeting, just to talk about why, because this didn't come down through the Board of Trustees. This is something we initiated. So
Okay.
if anybody would like to attend, I might attend if nobody else does. So, any other comments? All right, let's quickly vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes 5-0. All right. Okay, so I need a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
I move to adjourn the public hearing.
Need a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we're closed. We're adjourned.
Let me go kill the.
Okay, so let's kill the audio and we'll start a workshop here in a minute. Hey, Paul, are you going to stay on for the workshop?
Yeah.
Okay.